Most would agree that the primary function of a film is to entertain, but cinema can of course be so much more than that. Movies can tell us something unique and valuable about the human condition, and naturally, this truth isn't always sunshine and rainbows. Films can, and often do, hold up a mirror to the ugliest side of humanity and open up challenging dialogues, even if, for many, these cinematic villains will simply be too unwieldy. There's no denying that these films were all made to antagonize and agitate, and though each certainly has their passionate band of supporters, a lot of mainstream popcorn munchers were basically left appalled and infuriated. And that was kind of the whole point. So, with that in mind, I'm Will for WhatCulture, and here are 10 films actors wanted you to hate. 10. Only God Forgives, Ryan Gosling. While Drive received its fair share of mainstream pushback due to its lack of action and Gosling's stoic performance, that film was positively accessible compared to the aggressively nebulous narrative of Only God Forgives. The sparse narrative, full of ambiguous character motivations and eyebrow-raising Freudian imagery, was a major point of contention, though the film's generally antagonistic attitude towards its audience is best felt through Gosling's effect-free brick wall of a protagonist, Julian. Though Gosling spoke 116 lines in Drive, not a lot, but some, ultimately it was decided that Julian would speak only 17 lines in this movie. For all the talk of Gosling's quote-unquote autistic portrayal in Drive, this impenetrable blank-faced quality was dialed up to 11 for Only God Forgives, giving the audience precious little to chew on as a result. Gosling is absolutely committed to the film's challenging vision throughout, even if you can't really blame audiences for being annoyed when they were just hoping for Drive 2.0. 9. Natural Born Killers, Woody Harrelson and Juliette Lewis. Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers is one of the most controversial movies of all time, a Bonnie and Clyde on crack crime thriller in which Woody Harrelson and Juliette Lewis star as Mickey and Mallory Knox, a mass murderer couple who inevitably become glorified by the insatiable mass media. In every essence of its being, Stone's film is an intense provocation to the audience to push the bounds of taste and style. The film's real triumph is Harrelson and Lewis's vocal performances, which are absolutely in thrall of every lurid aspect of Stone's vision. There's no denying that the actors knew what they were getting into when they signed on for such a risky project, with a director known for his left-field style, and so, rather than trying to balance out Stone's eccentricities, they instead leaned into the ugliness and somehow made the end result even more nauseating. 8. Joker, Joaquin Phoenix. Joker was, without question, the most divisive movie of 2019, an entertainingly grim, gritty origin story for the clown prince of crime, shot into the stratosphere by Joaquin Phoenix's masterful, Oscar-winning performance. Joker's status as a mid-budget standalone movie allowed Phoenix to make it his sandbox, digging deep into the physicality of his character and delivering the rarest of things in a comic book movie, a truly fearless performance unencumbered by studio concerns. Watching the end result, it's clear Phoenix didn't go into this expecting to win an Oscar or for the movie to gross over $1 billion. He has his vision for the character and serves it up in uncut, full-fat fashion. He's not aiming to please the mainstream, but simply trying to do justice to a challenging portrayal of a pop culture icon. 7. Mother, Jennifer Lawrence. Mother is exactly the sort of movie an actor makes after they've won an Oscar and are keen to take some big career risks. Hot off a lengthy streak of awards-courting prestige picks and blockbusters, Jennifer Lawrence starred in Mother, a psychological horror film playing a young woman whose life is upended by the arrival of some unwanted guests. As an allegory for humanity's treatment of Earth, Mother is as subtle as a brick to the face, and while both the film's narrative and its shocking depictions of violence make it immediately divisive, there's little arguing with the tenacity of Lawrence's courageous performance. Basically, this was Lawrence doing a movie for herself rather than to bolster her quote-unquote brand, and being entirely unconcerned that it left many critics and fans totally dismayed and utterly horrified. 6. The Brown Bunny, Vincent Gallo. In perhaps the most literal ever example of that so charmingly termed masturbatory filmmaking, Vincent Gallo's 2003 road movie The Brown Bunny sees the writer, director, producer, editor, cinematographer cast himself as Bud Clay, a motorcycle racer haunted by memories of his former lover Daisy. The film infamously concludes with a sequence in which Bud receives oral sex from Daisy, a scene that the actress Chloe Sevigny actually performed for real, resulting in the actress being dropped by William Morris Agency on the eve of The Brown Bunny's premiere. Honestly, it's tough to imagine a more defiantly aggressive FU from an actor, who in this case was also the filmmaker, to the audience. Opinion on this film remains heavily divided almost 20 years later, and if nothing else, Gallo was clearly trying to get a fiery reaction out of the viewers. 5. The House That Jack Built, Matt Dillon. Depending on who you ask, Lars von Trier's The House That Jack Built is either one of the worst films of 2018 or one of the very best. The film, a 155-minute art horror project following the life of a serial killer, Matt Dillon, as he goes on his rounds, shows a near unprecedented contempt for the viewer. Best embodied by Dillon's brilliantly savage performance. Von Trier is of course well known for his transgressive, challenging works of cinema, and with its brutal violence, agonizing length, and willfully prolonged dramatic detours, this movie is no different. But the cherry on top is absolutely Dillon, who makes no attempt whatsoever to soften Jack, instead fashioning an eerily calm and stoic psychopath whose violent lashings out are uncharacteristically repulsive even for the standards of a serial killer film. As much as Von Trier might be often accused of trolling his audiences, Dillon was clearly eager to leave viewers bruised, disgusted, and foaming with rage in his own right. 4. The Woodsman, Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon gave the best performance of his entire career in a movie that, by sheer subject matter alone, will be unpalatable to the vast majority of people. 2004's The Woodsman casts Bacon as Walter, a convicted child molester who returns home after spending 12 years in prison. Though a perfectly well-wrought drama on its own terms, the film presents an especially tantalizing challenge to the viewer. Can you sympathize with a protagonist who has sexually abused children? Thankfully, Bacon's performance is so remarkable that many may begrudgingly answer in the affirmative, but there's no denying that The Woodsman willfully puts audiences through the ringer, forcing them to confront their own attitudes towards abuse, and that human innate unwillingness to ever forgive the most brutal, horrific crimes humans can commit. 3. Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, Michael Rooker. In this film, Rooker plays the titular murderer, and in a decade defined by cartoonishly over-the-top horror antagonists, his down-to-earth, subdued Henry was a singularly chilling figure of fear. Though McNaughton's gritty, documentary-style filmmaking provides a discomfortingly intimate glimpse of both Henry's life and his eventual bursts of violence, it's Rooker's superb performance which truly sells how utterly disgusting this film is to behold. This is one of those movies that invites you to shower after watching, largely because there's never a moment when it doesn't feel like people such as Henry actually exist. That Rooker threw himself into the deep end so enthusiastically in his first ever major acting gig makes it all the more impressive. The result is a truly hateful film, and one that won't be quickly forgotten by anyone who has witnessed it. 2. Vampire's Kiss, Nicolas Cage. Love him or hate him, Nicolas Cage is one of the boldest actors of his generation, and his filmography is absolutely littered with daring, mold-breaking performances. But there is a single Cage performance which challenges audiences above all others, and that is, of course, Ghost Rider 2: Spirit of Vengeance. I mean, Vampire's Kiss. It's Vampire's Kiss, sorry. Cage plays Peter, a literary agent who begins to lose his mind as he comes to believe that he is turning into a vampire. The film, which was a box office bomb and received wildly polarized reviews upon release, sees Cage at his full-tilt, coke-huffing best. Yet, as entertaining as the results are, it is also fair to say that Peter represents the most unlikable and impenetrable character in Cage's entire back catalogue. There is nothing in the way of redemption or catharsis here, and on the balance of Cage's performance, he wanted to leave viewers as repulsed and pissed off as humanly possible. 1. Naked, David Thewlis. Naked is one of writer-director Mike Leigh's very best movies, but surely also his toughest to sit through, and that is largely thanks to the near unbearable brutality of Thewlis' star-making central performance. He plays Johnny Fletcher, a nihilistic Mancunian drifter who flees to London after a sexual liaison gets out of hand. The rest of the movie sees Johnny bouncing around from one depraved scenario to the next, exploiting people to his own end with a ruthlessness that's horrifying yet tough to look away from. Watching Naked from beginning to end requires viewers to simply dive down the rabbit hole with David. Because if you're the sort that requires a movie protagonist to be likable, this'll have you running for the hills within the first 3 minutes. The film as a whole is deeply concerned with hate, and specifically the means through which society breeds misanthropy, and so few would blame you for viewing Naked as an intensely nasty piece of work. After all, it wouldn't be nearly as effective if you felt any other way. And there you have it, folks. 10 films actors wanted you to hate. Feel free to drop this video a like if you enjoyed it, and drop me a follow on Twitter at YouSlyDawgYou. I'm Will for What Culture, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.